rounding third with home plate in sight. But even the best players need a coach to wave them in. Safe! Welcome to Perfect Game Retirement, hosted by Ryan Ledden, former pro baseball player, University of Georgia economics graduate, and now certified financial planner with Black Oak Asset Management. He's here to guide you through the final stretch and help you slide safely into a winning retirement. Play ball!
Well, hello and welcome in. This is Perfect Game Retirement. Glad to have you on the show this week as we talk about a couple of great topics with Ryan Ledden at Black Oak Asset Management. First, retirement planning myths. I know there's so many things out there that you might have heard about retirement planning that you might feel like you need to do. We're going to try to debunk some of those today with Ryan. Plus, there's a lot of shiny objects out there in the financial world as well that can distract you from what's most important in your financial plan. So we'll do all that with Ryan Ledden. Of course, he is president and financial coach at Black Oak Asset Management, also a certified financial planner, and we spend time with him every week talking about these financial planning topics. Ryan, what's going on?
Yeah, like we said last week, we're still grinding through May. It's a busy month, but a fun month at the same time. But yeah, we're getting through it. We're trying to handle some sports are kind of winding down, some sports are kicking up, so we're trying to balance that. But I love it.
You guys ever make it down any Braves games?
Sadly, man, my kids were talking about that the other day. It's a great question. They're like, we didn't go to a Braves game last year. And I'm like, I did. I got invited to one of my friends has Delta Club seats.
Nice.
So, yeah, and I do not want to take my kids down there because they'll, that's completely spoiling them. I'm like, oh, my gosh. So, so we only went to one game, and it was me. That was it. I went with some friends of mine that I coached softball with, and that was it. So shamefully, as much of a sports family we are, we don't get down there as much as I'd like. We watch them. Anytime we come home from practice, they're usually about the 6th or 7th inning, depending on what coast they're playing on. We usually catch the last 3 innings on TV, and we're glued, but we just don't get to the games. It's only about a 30-minute drive from where we live, but it's just time.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, hopefully you'll have some more of that in the future to spend some time and watch the Braves play. But we got a good show that we want to spend some time with today with Ryan here on Perfect Game Retirement. And before we get started, again, we offer you the opportunity to schedule a 15-minute consultation with Ryan. It's free. It's easy. It's a simple way to begin learning about what's maybe plaguing you or giving you trouble or just what questions you might have about your financial plan. But you go to retireperfect.com. Again, retireperfect.com. You'll see the link to schedule a free consultation. You also see some other great guides and resources there as well. It's all found at retireperfect.com, but a great place to begin that conversation if you have some things on your mind in terms of your financial status, your future for retirement, kind of where you stand, get a better idea of where you need to go. But I want to start off with some retirement planning myths, Ryan, because there are a ton of things out there that people will hear and believe or really put a lot of credence into, which maybe they shouldn't. And I want to debunk a few of these today with you. So first up, the more a financial plan weighs, the more valuable it is. I think a lot of people might think, hey, if I just have a few pages of a financial plan, what am I paying for? But sometimes simpler is better, right?
Yes, I mean, this is a perfect way to start off with because I've had people bring in their financial plans from other institutions, and yeah, I mean that sucker is thick. And but what do people do? They put it in their top drawer and then they never look at it again. And that's exactly what this person said. She's like, I haven't looked at that since the day I got it. Well, yeah, simpler is better. I mean, I can print you off hundreds of pages if you want. I mean, these softwares that we have access to, I mean, they'll print any report under the sun, but there's usually one or two that really boil down to creating a financial plan that gives you a peace of mind. Usually it's some sort of cash flow analysis or income plan when you do get to retirement, and what that income plan creates. So yeah, bigger in this situation, the weight of this financial plan is usually not the better. So you want to have something that's you can understand, you can see, because you can do charts and graphs all day long. But when it paints a clear picture, when it's on a 1 or 2 or 3 page type of plan, makes way more sense and it's way easier to implement. So having a thick plan is not always the best.
Yeah, I mean, so much of that's just filler. I think about like when I might get a prospectus in the mail for some kind of stock. I mean, some of those pages are just, in my mind, just worthless. It's just like, well, why are we sending all this over?
Yeah, think of the number of trees they're killing with that
Yeah.
that nobody reads. But you know what? They got to do it, and they kind of wash their hands of it, saying, "Yep, we sent the prospectus out. It's up to you to read."
Yeah. All right, we're busting some retirement planning myths. How about this one? My life is simple, so a will is all that I'm going to need to have my affairs in order. Why is that not true?
I mean, in some instances, I guess it could, but usually there's just more complexity to people's lives. You got to make sure beneficiary forms are filled out correctly. And if you want to really leave a true legacy, you probably do have to have some sort of a trust in there with a trustee that really lays out how you want this money divvied up, if you will, and at what times you want this done. So again, there are some simplistic situations where just having beneficiary forms filled out correctly and maybe a quote unquote simple will is all you need. But when you create trust inside, and when I say the word trust, you don't have to have millions. And I think that word gets thrown into, oh, I got to have, tens of millions of dollars to have a trust. No, you don't. You do not. It's controlling it from the grave is what the nickname of a trust is. So you really can lay out how these assets are passed on, and you have a trustee who does that for you when you pass away. So I think more than just a simple will, you can't write it on a napkin. That's not going to hold up at all. So having a trust, having beneficiary forms filled out correctly, a lot of these things can get around the whole probate thing. So there's usually more to it than that. And we mentioned in a previous episode, we help people with that estate planning piece of it. So you definitely need to take advantage of that.
All right, you're busting some retirement planning myths right here on Perfect Game Retirement. We do that every week with Ryan Ledden, president and financial coach at Black Oak Asset Management. Here's another myth, Ryan. I think that people believe, hey, my spouse is going to be fine when I'm gone. He or she's only going to need about half as much income anyway. What's the reality, though?
Yeah, nowhere close. I've had to deal with this when spouses may have selected a pension plan a long time ago. They may have selected 50% joint and survivor. Well, okay, not only does the pension get cut in half, you also lose a Social Security benefit as well. Yeah, you keep the higher of the two, but you're going to lose one of them. You're going to lose either the spousal benefit or the one who earned less. So it's usually never 50%. I would say that number is probably closer to 70 to 80% is going to be what people are going to want after a spouse passes away, because you get used to a certain lifestyle and it just all of a sudden doesn't get cut in half. I know there's one less person, but the reality is that doesn't happen. So if you're doing a financial plan and you do say, okay, actuarially speaking, men, we pass away before our wives. Not always. Like my dad is an example. My mom has passed away 20 years ago. He's still around. She unfortunately got sick. So that does happen. But if you look at the average lifespans, and if you got two healthy spouses, then okay, typically the male is going to pass away first. But if there's an age discrepancy between husband and wife, then okay, let's plan for that. Like, let's say, okay, this person's going to die off 10, 15 years ahead of the other one. Then what does this income look like? Well, you don't want to look at 50% after that person passes away. So you can build that into the plan of keeping a large majority of that same income for the spouse that's left behind.
Yeah, it's so important to be talking through that. I know it's a tough conversation to have, but if you want to begin looking at that and what that might, what actions you might need to take, retireperfect.com. You can schedule that free 15-minute consultation to talk with Ryan. Again, retireperfect.com. All right, one last myth here. Let's bust today on the show. When I retire, I need to dramatically shift from stocks to bonds in my portfolio. I think, Ryan, so many people think that's going to lower their risk, but does that actually happen?
Yeah, because bonds have risk as well. It's not stock market risk, but they do have interest rate risk. And we saw that in 2022 where interest rates shot straight up. Well, what happens to bond prices? They go straight down. And we saw that in 2022. Not only was the stock market down, but the bond environment was down. So the prices go down. It's an inverse relationship. So if interest rates do start coming down, then you may start seeing bond prices starting to go up. But we're in this weird environment still where short-term kind of fixed income, whether it's money market mutual funds or treasury notes, like the shorter duration is still paying the best yield right now. So if you look at CD rates at 2, 3, 4, 5 years, they're less than what a 1 year, or it's just a weird environment that we're in right now. So when you retire, the thing is, okay, yeah, your earning potential years are done, but you still may be living for 30 years. So if you get too conservative too quick, you do run the threat of running out of money, just like if you take on too much risk and you lose too much money. So again, there's a happy medium there, but a lot of it depends on how much assets you have when you actually retire. If you retire at 72, well, okay, you don't need an income stream probably as long as someone who retires at 59 or 55 or 50. So a lot of different variables there, but yeah, don't just automatically shift to the bond market, to bond portfolio just because you retire. A lot depends.
So much of it depends, and that's, again, why you work with a team that can help you, that has experience doing this for many years, works in many different aspects of planning that maybe you're not even aware of. And again, you can begin that process by going to retireperfect.com, getting the truth, right, to where you stand in retirement and how you're positioned for stepping away from that job. When you're ready to make that transition, finally, it all begins with a conversation. So go to retireperfect.com right now, schedule that time, 15-minute consultation, easy to do. And I know, Ryan, you're going to probably, in some of these conversations, have to dispel a few myths. I'm sure people come in here with some preconceived notions when they first meet with you.
Yeah, I mean, we hit the tip of the iceberg on some of these things. There's a ton more. I'm just going to live off the interest and keep the principal intact, or the 4% rule. I mean, I can go on and on and on and on and on. So there's these myths are around for a reason. And so, yeah, that's kind of our job. Some have some truth to them, but a lot of them we have to debunk, because it's not just blanket advice for everybody.
Absolutely. So begin by going to retireperfect.com right now, retireperfect.com, schedule that complimentary consultation. We have more coming up right here on Perfect Game Retirement with Ryan Ledden, so stay tuned.
The Great Pyramids have stood the test of time, and your financial plan should too. Let's build something that lasts. Stay tuned for more insights.
You're listening to Perfect Game Retirement. This is a show we talk retirement planning every single week. We also take your questions, which we're about to get to here in just a second. But Ryan, I thought this was interesting. I came across this, study on Wallet Hub, or I guess maybe a little report that came out about financial literacy, which I know is so important to you. The most and least financially literate states in the country. If you had to guess, where would you put Georgia? Do you think you guys do a pretty good job in general of financial planning, or do you think you'd be lower on the list?
Oh, man. I guess that goes back to like my teaching days in high school when I taught personal finance. So hopefully I stamped out some of the some of the ignorance on financial planning. But I'm going to go, middle of the pack. I don't know. We'll say in the mid-20s.
Well, you're close. 33. So bottom half of the country in terms of overall rank. And they had a few different categories. But I thought the one that was most interesting for our conversation here, the category of financial planning and habits. Well, Georgia ranks 44th in that, Ryan. Are you surprised that they're so low on the list when it comes to financial planning and having good financial habits?
It's disheartening. It means I'm not doing my job, I guess. That's hard to put into perspective. I mean, yeah, I've been around the country and traveled and all that stuff. So I can really, because I've been in the Atlanta area my entire life. I grew up in Lilburn and live in Cumming now. So I've been in this world. So I can see how habits wouldn't be great, because I do see the things that people do, the things that people buy, the cars that people, it's easy to get caught up into certain areas where you live. You, again, kind of using an old saying, you're trying to keep up with the Joneses type of thing. And I can see where that becomes an issue. I mean, like we've mentioned before, I'm in the heart of this whole travel sports world, and part of, most of it I love. There's parts of it I hate. And the cost is, as long as my kids enjoy and love doing what they do, I don't mind the cost. But at the same time, I'm like, good grief. We talked about this summer with my daughter's team, and that's the expectation of this team. And that going in. And I'm like, tell my daughter, if you don't want to do this, then that's okay. We can find something else. As far as softball goes, we don't have to be on this team, but she wants to. So it's a huge cost. So I don't know how sometimes people afford doing things like that and then living in, I mean, as much as we're on the road, I mean, constantly going out to eat. And so I can see where habits, and these things I'm mentioning aren't just isolated to the Atlanta area, but it's pretty big in this area. All travel sports, whether it's lacrosse, volleyball, you name it, it's a big deal. So I can see how the habits are not great in this area.
Yeah, it's interesting because the actual financial knowledge and education rank is 21st. So maybe you're doing a good job of educating people. It's just trying to get them over to using those habits and putting them into place in their daily life, which is very difficult. But I thought that was interesting, so I wanted to share that with you. Now, I got a question from Glenda in Peachtree Corners I want to throw your way. She says, do you have a suggested percentage that people should aim to put in savings? And does it depend on how old you are, or is there another factor I should consider?
Yeah, that's a good point, that last part, Glenda. I mean, obviously you can sit there and go, 10%, 15%, 20%. I mean, there's all sorts of percentages that are thrown out there, but I think it depends on what your percentage is. And I do think capacity to save depends on what phase of life you are in. Do you have kids in college, and what phase of life are you in? Are your kids gone? Are you able to save more? So a lot just depends. And then it depends on when you get to retirement, how much overhead or debt that you have on a monthly basis. What's your Social Security benefit going to be? What other income streams do you have? So again, saying 10 to 15% is kind of a general guideline, but that's where everyone's different, and they may not have the ability to do that. So they may get disheartened and go, well, I can't save 10, 15%. We'll start with 5, go up to whatever the match is on your 401k, start somewhere. That's the main thing, but then build it out to, okay, how much do you need to save? So Glenda, that's a thing. That's a number that's going to depend on your situation. But yeah, I mean, you Google search anything, you'll see 10 to 20%. But can you do that, or can you even do more?
Thank you, Glenda, for that question. Again, if you have one for us, we'd love to hear from you. Go to retireperfect.com right now, retireperfect.com, and you can go ahead and schedule a consultation. You can reach out to Ryan directly that way. Begin talking about some of these things that are on your mind and working through, hey, what should my numbers be, whether it be savings or investing or contributing to my retirement accounts, whatever that question might be. It all begins with that first meeting. Go to retireperfect.com now to begin that process. Now, we're going to talk about some of the shiny objects that might be distracting you from what's most important with your retirement plan. That's coming up next, so stay tuned right here on Perfect Game Retirement.
The Wright brothers turned dreams into reality, and so can you. With the right financial plan, your future is ready for takeoff. You're listening to the show that puts your goals in flight.
This is Perfect Game Retirement with Ryan Ledden at Black Oak Asset Management. He is a certified financial planner. We're here every week talking about what's important for you as we try to educate you and inform you in the world of financial planning and retirement planning. He has offices in Alpharetta, Macon, Lawrenceville, serving that entire Atlanta area, and it all begins by getting in touch. Go to retireperfect.com to do so today. Retireperfect.com. Take advantage of a free 15-minute consultation and begin talking about where you stand financially. There are a lot of shiny objects out there, Ryan, in the financial world. I know no matter where you look, there's something that's going to distract you from maybe what's most important, what you should be really focused on. So I'm going to throw some of these shiny objects out to you, Ryan, and I'm going to have you kind of clear it up for us and talk about what we should actually be focused on. Sales brochures, number one. I know a lot of things sounds good in the brochure, right? But is it the fine print we really should be paying attention to?
Yeah, usually. I mean, sales brochures for days, especially on certain types. I mean, we even joked before about prospectuses. Oh my gosh, talking about boring content, but that's just part of it. But then you start getting into the insurance world. You start getting into annuities and life insurance. And anyway, so yeah, sales brochures are great. You do have to read the fine print on those things. And I'll give an example, and I'm not picking on annuities because we are licensed to do them here. And if it's a fit, okay, it may be a fit. But you do have to look at, these sales brochures or content that can be, or these sales illustrations that can be produced, which are great. But you do have to say, well, okay, you have to look at that, chart that looks nice and shiny, but then you have to look at the minimum guaranteed amount as well. So it's like, okay, if this contract goes to the furthest south it could, this is what it's going to look like. This is a nice little illustrated amount, but that isn't necessarily where that's going to be. So you do have to make that known. And we go through that and say, hey, this insurance company, they can change the caps, they can change the rates. And I don't have to get into all the minutia of that. But just because when you get an annuity contract, they can change it the next year. So like an annuity contract, for an example, if you have a fixed index annuity that has zero downside, meaning if the market loses 20%, you don't lose anything. Well, that's great. Well, you got to give up something on the top side. So there's a cap, meaning there's a ceiling, if you will, usually on these that says, hey, you can't go higher than 10%. So if the market does 30, you get 10. Most people understand that because they know if it pulls back 20 or 30%, they lose nothing. So that's great. There's some annuity people use zero is your hero type of thing. I don't know if I necessarily agree with that, but I get the point of it. But they can change that cap. Next year, it may go down to 8%. It could go up, but I've seen them go down more than they go up. So just reading the fine print, just knowing what they can and can't do is you got to go through that.
All right, so sales brochures number one. What about hypothetical projections? I know a lot of people will look at the hypotheticals, Ryan, when they're trying to kind of forecast and look ahead to retirement, but why is that a distraction from what's most important?
Yeah, I mean, hypotheticals are hypotheticals. I mean, we run them. We run, like I told you before in previous episodes, that we run kind of the quote unquote average rate of return and run all those Monte Carlo situations that show ups and downs in the market. Then we show below average. We might just see what does the pie in the sky above average market look like. Oh, that's cool. But like I said before, we don't dwell on that. We say, hey, it could be this, but it's more going to be like, yeah, let's kind of go with this average or even below average. So hypothetical projections are literally hypothetical. So we want to keep this information updated every single year. I mean, the financial planning software we have has a data feed with all their accounts that go directly into it. So we get that daily. So those things can be updated all the time. So that part's awesome. But when you run 20, 30 years out, yeah, I mean, they're sometimes they can paint a really, really rosy picture, especially if you just use a kind of consistent rate of return and never show negative rates of return. I mean, that's when you illustrate 12% every single year, it's not going to happen. You can average 12% rate of return over a long period of time. It's possible, but you don't get that every single year. And if you get that every single year, those hypothetical projections, it's false.
We're talking about the shiny objects that are distracting you in the financial world here on Perfect Game Retirement with Ryan Ledden at Black Oak Asset Management. Testimonials and references. This are great tools, I think, when people are searching for people to work with or businesses to work with. But I know when it comes to working with an advisor, it's going to be hard to find a reference that's not positive, right? So maybe you can't really put a whole lot of weight into these.
Yeah, and testimonials is kind of a new-ish thing in our world. You used to not be able to use testimonials at all. You can to some degree now. I haven't used them. On rare occasions, I've been asked for references, and I'm perfectly okay with giving them. But yeah, I mean, I'm not going to dig through my client base and go, oh gosh, this person, they're kind of a thorn in my side, which I don't have. I can safely say no one really pops into mind. I've had some. Trust me, I have had some. But now I am much pickier on who we take on as clients. We have the luxury of doing that. And I've had to grind through many years of taking on some people that I probably knew better. But yeah, I'm not going to give references to people that I don't thoroughly enjoy working with. So every time I've done it though, people will come back and say, hey, talking to so-and-so and so-and-so and so-and-so, it was very, very helpful. So it can work, but yeah, I'm not gonna give out a bad reference, if you will.
Right. What about advisor awards, Ryan? If somebody comes across an advisor with a bunch of awards listed, how credible are those?
I guess it depends.
Yeah.
I've been to these huge FMO workshops that people are on stage and they did this much production and all that. And to me, that's awesome. Good for them. That's not me. I'm not going to sell things to get on stage. Not knocking those people. And I'm sure they're very successful people, but every time I've been to those, I'm like, that's not me. And I've been told that, oh, well, you got to do these products. You got to do this. I'm like, no, I don't. I don't have to. As a CFP, I have to do what's in their best interest. And this particular strategy may not be in their best interest just to put a plaque on the wall. I'm just not here to do that. I'm here for the long game. Some of those things are appealing and do look rewarding, but I'd be careful if you see a bunch of advisor awards and plaques on the wall. There's not a single one in this office. Now, I got some family pictures and some Georgia photos, and I got my designation stuff hanging up. I'm proud of those. That CFP kicked my butt, but you know what? I'm proud of it, so I'll hang that up. But it's not an award.
Yeah, they might not necessarily be a bad thing, but maybe not give them too much weight because it might not be as credible as you might think. All right, one last one here, Ryan. Professional designations. Now, as you just put it, you're very proud of your CFP, right? And there are some designations that take hours of study, and you take a lot of time to pass some very difficult exams, but others aren't so difficult, are they?
Yeah. I mean, there's definitely a hierarchy with this. The CFP, to me, is kind of the industry standard. That's the one you can really, really hang your hat on because it is a gauntlet of information that you have to go through and a gauntlet of a test. I also have another designation, a RICP, Retirement Income Certified Professional. Very valuable designation. Did it take as long? No. Was the test as hard? No. So there is a pecking order to these things, and most people are not going to know the differences between this one and that one. But again, the CFP is kind of the industry standard as probably the hardest exam. There'll be other people that say the CFA, Certified Financial Analyst, that's an extremely tough test as well. But I'm not managing mutual funds, and that's usually what a CFA is for. But kind of client facing and in front of people, a CFP is what you want to search for if you're looking for an advisor.
All right, very good. So there's some shiny objects, maybe hopefully kind of point you on the right track in terms of what's important, what's not. But if you ever have any questions, want to sit down, begin talking about some of these things, or learn more about Black Oak Asset Management, you can do so right now. Go to retireperfect.com. You can schedule a time to get that free 15-minute consultation, sit down with Ryan, begin discussing some of these things. And Ryan, just again, a reminder of kind of what to expect when someone sets up that consultation and kind of what they need to know and be prepared for in that first conversation with you.
Yeah, just have some good questions ready to go. Just let me hear about your situation. Have some good questions to ask. And that 15-minute phone call, both sides can get a good feeling if it's a good fit to have another detailed conversation. So that's all that 15-minute call is for. Sometimes I can answer questions and be done, and that's all you need to know. Totally fine. And that's okay. That's why we do a 15-minute phone call, to be respectful for both people's times. But if there's a good fit and there's more questions that need to be had and more analysis and digging that needs to be done, then it's usually an in-person meeting or a Zoom call, depending on your livelihood as far as your job and your flexibility and traffic and all that good stuff. So usually the next one is the hour-long one. That's a deeper dive, if you will. And then it's usually after that first long in-person or Zoom call is if both sides decide to move forward in an ongoing relationship after that. So 15-minute call, high level, 1 hour in-person meeting or Zoom call, more in depth, and it's usually after that in-person meeting is when people decide. Again, both sides either move forward or go with somebody else.
All right. Again, it all begins at retireperfect.com. We appreciate you listening this week. Hopefully we pointed you in the right direction on a couple of things. But again, if you have any questions, please don't hesitate to set up a time to talk with Ryan at retireperfect.com. Also, take advantage of the free book and toolkit that you can get right there on retireperfect.com. Diffuse the retirement threats. It's available just for listening to this show as a thank you for your support. All right, we'll get out of here on that note. For Ryan Ledden at Black Oak Asset Management, I am Ben George. We'll talk to you again next week right here on Perfect Game Retirement. Thanks for listening.
Information provided is for informational purposes only and does not constitute tax, investment, or legal advice. Please consult with a qualified professional before taking any action. Securities and registered investment advisory services offered through Silver Oak Securities, Inc., member FINRA SIPC. Black Oak Asset Management and Silver Oak Securities, Inc. are not affiliated.